Together we learn, together we grow, together we heal, together we flow. Be cool, every teacher, every school. 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 Be cool, every teacher, every school.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Scholl. I serve as a lead learner for the Center for Educator Wellness and Learning. We call ourselves COOL. You can learn more about what we do at COOL to support the inner and outer lives of educators right here on our website, cool.us, that's CEWL.us. One of the things that we do is we host live streams on a regular basis with education thought leaders here in South Carolina and across the country. And this fall, we're going to be focusing on leaders here in South Carolina. And I thought, what better leader than to focus on than our new president of the SCEA, Dena Crews. Dena has served as vice president. She's now, just over the summer, started her first term as president of the South Carolina Education Association. And I thought tonight would be a good time for us to get to know who she is and what her vision is for our organization. So if you are tuning in and watching tonight on Facebook or YouTube, you can go into the Facebook comments and you can type in questions or comments, and we'll do our best to have Dena answer those questions for you. So without further ado, let's bring on Madam President Dena Crews. How are you tonight, Dena?
I am well, Todd. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. The weather has taken a nice little turn, giving us a little preview of the fall.
Yes.
You know, anytime I can put a sweatshirt on in the evening, I'm kind of happy about that after the blistering heat that we had in July and August. So I'm very thankful for that. Somebody's saying that the live stream is not started. It should be started because it says that it started, but we'll just go ahead and keep going because I see that people are already logged on watching. Let's start here, Dena. I didn't read your bio on purpose because I generally like to have guests, especially when it's a one-on-one conversation. Mm-hmm. I don't want to spend like 2 or 3 minutes talking about you. I'd rather have you tell your story. So will you share a little bit about your background, you know, maybe where you were born, where you grew up, your sort of the influences that were on your life and how you got into education in the first place?
Okay. All right. Picture it. Brooklyn, New York, 1973. April 18th. A baby girl is born. Me! So my beginnings are from Brooklyn, New York. It doesn't matter how many years I've lived in South Carolina, Brooklyn is always home to me. I was born in Brooklyn. I was raised there. We moved to South Carolina and I started college at Francis Marion University. I did do 1 year at Old Dominion. And then I came to Francis Marion, where I have 2 undergrad degrees. My first one is in English with a minor in mass communications and political science, because I wanted to be a paralegal for like a minute. Yeah. But I did go into journalism, which was my first love. I worked for a local newspaper with my uncle for a couple of summers. And then I worked at WBTW TV 13 for a number of years. Okay. Started off on camera, did some directing, audio before I moved into the newsroom and became a producer. Okay. So I got to channel into my writing. I got to go out on stories. And it was during that time we had what was called the Golden Apple Award, where people got to write in to celebrate their teachers. So I was going out with reporters on those stories, and I was hearing some great things. And one of the ones that sticks out to me is Dr. Allie Brooks from Florence, who is one of my favorite people. And I saw the impact that he had not only his current students, but students that he taught from years before. And I started thinking in my mind, I want to be able to have an impact. And I didn't feel that media was doing that for me. So I went back to school and back to Francis Marion, got my undergrad degree in elementary ed because I wanted to be with the little people. I thought trying to teach people that were my size or taller wouldn't be a good idea. So I said, let me do the little ones. And that way I could be a part of setting the foundation. So that way they could be where they needed to be when they got to high school.
Right.
So my teaching years began in Darlington County. Then I went to Sumter, taught in Lee County, where I had a principal who saw potential in me and pushed me into an administrative position as a curriculum coordinator. Did that for a few years, and then I came to Florence, where I served as a literacy coach at North Vista Elementary School. Go Tiger Cubs! And that was my education background. I love reading. Don't know why I didn't become a media specialist, but it's never too late. But right now, I'm doing this whole presidential thing. So my union work, however, is a different story. I didn't know about the SCEA when I was in my undergrad until it was time for student teaching. And I still didn't join. It wasn't until probably 3 years into my teaching that I had a friend of mine who was like, I told y'all to join, you need to join. So I joined. And a year later, I got active because I didn't understand why I was paying membership into an organization that I didn't know anything about.
Right.
So I started off locally as a secretary. I stayed active even though I moved around to different districts. I served on the board of directors, and it was during the year that I took off that I ran for vice president, became vice president of the SCEA, and now here I am as your president. And never thought in my 25 years that this is where I would be at this moment
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have a few things in common. My grandfather, I don't know if I told you this, was born and raised in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I was a broadcast journalism major at USC, and was going to go into radio or television, and then wound up getting certified in elementary ed at Coastal Carolina.
Wow.
So some similarities there, some definite crossovers. One of the things I always wonder is, besides talking about the education stuff, like what have been some of the formative experiences for you? And we can talk about maybe like books that you've read or shows that you've watched or films or experiences you've had, travel. What are some of those experiences that you have that help make Dena Crews Dena Crews?
Family. Really, I rest on the foundation that my family set for me. My grandmother used to call me teacher. And so I knew she was very proud of what I was doing in my work as a teacher. My mom had very high expectations for my brother and myself, that education was important, that she wanted us to do well, and we strove for that. One of the things that always impressed me and impacted me that I took into my teaching, my mom always took us on trips. She would take a week off every summer, and each day it was a pattern. Once I got older, I realized that it was an actual pattern. That one day was a museum, another day we would be in a park, playing, eating, cooking out. Another day would be we would go to Coney Island to the beach. We would go to the zoo. We always spent time with my grandmother, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents. I had all of them. So family was always important to us, but it was those times that my mom took off to make sure that we were engulfed in culture that we were aware of history, that our personal history, our American history, our African American history. She wanted us to be knowledgeable, and she made sure that we had those opportunities. So when I started teaching, I wanted my students to have those same opportunities. I thought in my mind that everybody did like my mom. But being in teaching, I saw that all our children didn't have those same opportunities. So I wanted to make sure that my children got the same things that I did. So I believed in taking my kids on field trips to a variety of different places. Sometimes I worked in one school where they were like, well, what standard is this? And I was like, the standard of life. They need exposure and experiences. I believed in taking them to plays. I was in the dramatic arts. So I loved off-Broadway plays, any kind of play. My all-time favorite musical is West Side Story. I have the DVDs, plural. I have one of the original cast albums. I love it. I love the story. I love the energy of it. And so even with that, my years as the literacy coach at my previous school, I brought in the dramatic arts for our African American history program so that I would find opportunities for all of our children to participate, and it would be a big performance. I know it would, over the years, my coworkers got used to my ideas and stuff. I think the first couple of years it kind of threw them, and it was like, what is she trying to do here? And once they saw how much it impacted our kids to be able to perform and be able to just showcase their talent, they were like, okay, so what we doing next? What's your next idea? Because I can come up with an idea with a quickness. I just need people to implement it with me and sign on with it. But my grown-up experiences in New York really kind of set the tone for my teaching and the work that I do. Because I want kids to have the same experiences that I did. There's a lot out here in the world that is good that I want our kids to be able to see. I can't assume that every parent is going to have the opportunity to take their children to the beach, but we can do it.
Yeah.
We can take them to be able to walk on the sand for the first time, to be able to touch the ocean water. And I had a student in second grade. It was her first time going to the beach, and I looked at the beach through her eyes just to see the newness, the awareness. She was so engulfed in it. It was so new to her. But giving them those experiences and opportunities is something that, reading a book is great, and I love reading books, but actually being able to experience it is life-changing. I love to travel. My student teaching, I actually did overseas. I was in New Zealand, in Ashburton, New Zealand for 10 weeks. And it was phenomenal to see a whole different atmosphere in terms of education. And then bringing back some of what I learned here. And that just got the little travel bug in me to where I just like to go. So I tell people, have car, will travel. And, if somebody offers me a plane ticket, I go there too.
There's a couple of things you brought up that I want to dive deeper on. First of all, having been raised in New York by two New York educators, I'm sure you, having been raised in New York, there's a little bit more of a, I don't know if combative is the right word, but a little bit more of a fighter. I think that you're brought up to be, because the culture is just like, you kind of have to be a little more assertive and aggressive to survive in New York, because it's a more assertive kind of place to be. And I saw that in my parents, and I see that with a lot of educators who come here from New Jersey or New York. What has your experience been with that? Like, contrasting the way you grew up in New York and the sort of attitudes that people had around conflict or around just standing up for themselves and advocating for what's right, and how that has informed your journey in leading the SCEA.
The funny thing about that, Todd, that's I would not say that was my character.
Okay.
At all. I was a very sensitive child. I didn't have the fight in me.
Okay.
I didn't have the fight in me. I was picked on a lot at school, and I didn't have the New York attitude, so to speak. Sometimes in my tone I did. But the fight back and standing up for myself, that didn't occur in me until maybe my 40s, my early 40s.
What was it that was the catalyst for that?
I was in a situation where I felt beat down, that couldn't do anything right, wasn't doing anything right. It was just an ongoing, it was a bad situation, and I was sick of it. But I also knew when I get sick of things, the nastiness comes out, and I didn't want to be nasty, which is why I would hold a lot of things in. And I did go through counseling, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it was after that slowly but surely I started to stand up for myself, to be able to say to people, no, I don't talk to me like that. Or no, I don't agree with that. That's wrong, and let me tell you why. And knowing that it's okay to do that, that it doesn't have to be done in a nasty, hateful way, but that my feelings, my thoughts, my opinions, they all matter.
Yes.
And that I don't need to suffocate myself or stuff down my feelings to appease somebody else, because what I feel and what I think matters. And if I never say it, the other person will never know. So I remember advocating for myself just with the job, with doing multiple jobs that was outside of what I was hired to do. And I asked for myself and another coworker, can we get some extra funds for it? I honestly don't think I thought the answer was going to be yes, but it was. And I was like, oh, I advocated for me, and look at what happened. And seeing that for myself, I share that with other people, that it's baby steps. It's not a comfortable thing to do a lot of times, but take the chance. And really, when you're advocating for yourself, the only thing the other person can do is either say yes or no. And if they say no, you take the no for the moment and come back again.
Yeah.
Ask again. Working with my superintendent in my district was very helpful to me, to be able to sit at the table with him and ask questions, to advocate for myself, for the teachers in the district, for our support professionals. And he didn't say yes to everything. As a matter of fact, I sat in a meeting with him where I think I had about 10 plus questions, and he was saying no so much. I thought maybe he had a record and was just pressing it every time I asked the question. And then I stopped asking questions. He was like, that's all you have for me? I said, you're saying no to everything. I said, I'll ask the rest of these when you're in a yes mood.
Yeah.
But the no's, I took it, but it didn't stop me from coming back to ask again, or to reword, or to give more explanations in terms of the why. One of the things we were able to do in our district the last two school terms ago was looking at our leave Teachers wanted their personal leave to carry over. And at the time, if you didn't use your personal leave at the end of the school year, it went into your sick leave. We sat around the table and we talked about it. We got everybody involved, from school board members, principals, other teachers, HR, to look at our leave policy. So that way we were giving teachers what they wanted. And then also making sure that we were acknowledging those who spent time in the district. So we have tiers now with our leave policy. And when I first started, I wouldn't have even thought that was something that I could ask for. Our contract this past year, our teachers got a contract that was more than 2 pages long. For 25 years, I was signing just that one pager. And now our teachers have a contract which is giving some meat to the work that they're doing. And most of that is because of the travels. I've been with NEA, meeting people from other states and seeing that they have contracts that are thick. They're a book. And a lot of the language that's in there is in our district policies. So my question was, not just have it in the policy, how about put it in the contract? That way, superintendent signing that they agree with this, school board chair signing they agree with this, and the educator is signing that they agree with this. So the advocating piece I've grown into, but I see what we can do by advocating. And it doesn't have to start with big things. It can start with small things that the majority of the people want.
Yes. One of the things that I've noticed in my, in my 31st year in public education, that collectively as a profession, we do tend to have a people-pleasing attitude. And one of the things I've learned about trauma is there's 4 different responses. There's that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And what I think educators do in response to the sort of collective trauma that they experience from the profession is a lot of them are fleeing, they're leaving the profession, but a lot of them fawn. And I think a lot of them, their habit of let me try to make my administration happy. If that means staying late over the weekend, if it means doing extra stuff, it means swapping out my bulletin board every couple of weeks so that it looks fresh or whatever. I think there's a fine line between having passion for what you do and wanting to do a great job and wanting to be a team player, and also operating maybe even subconsciously from a standpoint of I want to feel safe.
Right.
And this is hard to feel safe in this profession all the time. And I want to please either my building or my district administration.
Mm-hmm.
As you've traveled around and kind of developed it into this presidency, into this leadership role, what have you seen in that respect? And what can you do as president to help educators learn to speak up for themselves, to get out of that habit of just always giving in to fake it to make it, just give in to be okay? What can we do to help educators effectively stand up for themselves? Because I think what happens sometimes is you get so, over the course of a career, you get so upset, and then you get angry and you're advocating from a place of anger, which can be counterproductive, or you just want to quit because you can't take it anymore. So how do we do that effectively?
It takes conversations. It takes knowing that you are valuable. You are valuable. Knowing that for yourself, that you have value, that you matter, and no person can take that from you. A lot of times, and teachers will joke around and say, they put on their pants same way as I do, one leg at a time. What they do, jump in it. But it's different when you're in front of that person. You don't give them that same energy.
Right.
We have to understand, and I think the first piece of it is saying no to some things and being okay with it. Not, well, I'll see, because the I'll see ends up turning into another layer of a pancake that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But knowing that you can say no, that if it's not within what you've been hired to do, you can say no. If it's an after school event and your children have something, you can say no. My kids have this, or you don't have to give an excuse for it.
Right.
But it takes knowing your value, knowing that you're valuable, and then also starting with that one word, no.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not.
It's not. I think you're spot on with knowing your value. And I think that sometimes, especially early on in your career, you're kind of questioning your value because you're looking around and there's all these, there's veteran teachers seem like they know what they're doing. And then you're kind of like trying to figure things out. So you're wondering, am I really valuable here? What is my value? And it takes a little while to build up that confidence that I think you're referring to know that I am a valued member of this team and I matter enough that I don't have to say yes to everything. Cause that's what I did early on in my career was I'm saying, yeah, like they asked me to announce the home football games. Yeah, I'll do that. You want to start a club? Yeah, I'll do that. And you're just saying yes to everything because you're trying to prove to somebody else that you're valuable. And I think what I hear you saying is you have to start with, I value myself. And how I value myself is I'm not going to overextend myself and say yes to everything. I'm going to have enough courage to say, no, I've got other things I want to do. And without even necessarily having to justify it. Like even you don't have kids who have a game. It's just, I need to go home and rest. Like that's enough of a reason to value yourself to say, no, I'm not doing that.
Because if we don't take care of ourselves, we're no good to anybody.
Right.
And overextending ourselves to try to please someone or someone's, there's never going. I finally came to the conclusion at a point in my life, there's not enough that I can do to please any person, to make them happy. There's always going to be something else. So at a certain point, I please God, and I make sure that I'm doing things that's good for Dena and good for the family for the most part. But trying to please people, we want to, because we want to be accepted. We want to. You're right, Jean.
Yeah, she's right.
You're right, Jean. And it should not be. Even last week when we were talking about some things, we're in education, we're in buildings, we're teaching children of all ages to grow up. Yes, we're teaching, the basics, how to read and math and all of that. But part of our jobs we're also teaching them how to get along with other people, how to live and be in society. Yet we're in some cultures where it's fear and it's bullying.
Yes.
Among the adults. And it's like, how have we lost the focus of why we are here, which is to educate our children? And that at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, and the end of the day, that is what we're supposed to be doing. The decisions and the things that we're being asked to do, if it's not about building up and doing what's best for our students, what is the purpose of it?
Melanie asked, what do you do when you're being pushed to do things? I don't need to give an excuse or reason, but also feel like I need to justify my decisions. I'll put that up there again. So what do you do when you're being pushed to do things? Like what happened? How, I guess maybe what she's saying is you're being kind of pressured. You've said no, but you're still being pressured to do that thing. How do you respond to that?
Without being insubordinate, because that gets thrown out there a lot
Yeah.
too, that if you say no, you're being insubordinate, then you also have to go back to board policy and to your contract. Because one of the things we ask for within our contract is that, things we're asked to do is within the school day. And that, no, I know that there are things that take place after school, but what I asked for, hadn't gotten it yet, but I'm still working on it, is that, a certain number out of, but you can say no, and you can end up just not doing it, especially if it's something that's not good for students. And if you're told you have to come to this after school event, I can't come. If you can't come, you can't come. And if there's a consequence, call us.
Yeah, that's another good reason to join the SCEA, because I think that's what happens. Jean's exactly right. There is a culture of fear.
It is.
But when you're part of an organization and you have a collective, and you have a local association, a state, and the national association that you can lean on to support you, that fear kind of can dissipate quite a bit because you know that you're not alone.
And when if you get called into a meeting and you're coming in with that support, it makes a difference knowing that you are not by yourself, and you're not. Because if you're feeling that you're being pushed and pressured to do things, there are other people on that staff that feels the exact same way. And that's when organizing comes in, to be able to have a group that says, we need to sit down and talk about this. This isn't right.
Right.
And having that organized group, because change can happen, but it takes us working collectively together. It can't be, one person standing by themselves, which was always my fear with standing up for like a group, is like, I'll be the only one standing, and everybody else is all the way back there talking about, we got your back here.
Way back here behind the chairs.
And we've had those experiences, even meeting with my superintendent, and he's taken our concerns and he's taken it back, trying to make those changes, and we'll have pushback. Oh, you said something to the superintendent. Well, if I can't talk to you and he's willing to listen, I'm going to talk to the person that's willing to listen. And I go back to say, I don't understand how we've gotten so off track on doing things that's supposed to be helping our kids. We should be helping and working with our staff, should be so celebrated, so honored, and so working free from fear that they want to come to work every day.
Yes.
That they're on board with trying to do things that's great for kids, because it is the end of August. Many schools have already been back in school for a month. People shouldn't be tired.
Right.
Already. And it's not tired from the work of what they're doing with students. It's tired from the pressures that really shouldn't be there. It should be about supporting and lifting. And if somebody needs help and support, offering help and support, but educators shouldn't feel beat down and dishonored. Because for one thing, our kids, they're listening and they're watching. And if they're seeing their teacher not being treated well and all of that, what makes anybody think that they're going to want to teach?
Exactly.
And we're not going to be here forever. And no matter how great they think AI is, let a chat GPT try to be in somebody's classroom and teach, and
Right.
let me know how that works out.
Yeah, Todd Jake used to say that he used to share this Frederick Douglass quote that power concedes nothing without a demand. And that quote's always stuck with me because I found that to be true. And sometimes, like you said, it doesn't even have to be a big thing. It can be, it could be just that your administrator hasn't been told what it is that folks want. And especially if you come and say, listen, I've spoken to, 15, 20 different staff members, and we all kind of want this thing. And there's a lot of low hanging fruit that can take some of this burden off of
Right.
educators. One example I always give is I was on the school improvement council, and at the end of the year, we would have to go around like a scavenger hunt and get signatures from like the librarian, from the custodians, and we would go around, and sometimes the people would be in their office, sometimes they weren't. And I said, well, why don't we just bring all of those people into the media center, which is in the middle of the school, and we'll have a certain time we can all get it signed at one time. And the principal actually said, how about you just don't do it at all? But you promise me that if there's an issue, and like if the custodian has an issue, that you'll come back in over the summer and handle it. And I said, I don't see why anybody would have a problem with that. So we didn't even have to do the sign off thing at the end of the year anymore. But it's like that kind of thing might not have dawned on the principal without us bringing it up. And I think there's a lot of little things that if we go to leadership and first of all ask, can we do this? But then also, like, sometimes it has to be like, we're not going to do this. It has to be in the form of a demand, which requires you to organize, like you said, organize and get folks together to make that demand, because one person is just not going to work.
One person can't do it. And then also going in, almost like you said, with solutions that
Right.
here's a problem. Why don't we try this? And many times administrators are open to that. And it's like, okay, if you don't feel this is working, okay, we'll try it your way and see how it goes. And that could be a new standard, because sometimes we do things that we're comfortable with, or we do the things that we've always done. And times are changing. There's other avenues and other ways of getting things done and getting things accomplished. And even, looking at events and things that we're asked to be in after school, let's come up with some other alternatives. So organizing and then coming in with some alternatives, that
Right.
helps a lot also, because administrators, and I was one for a short period of time as a curriculum coordinator. We get the problems, we get that, but let's come in and it's like, what can you suggest?
Right.
And even in my role now, I remember speaking with someone and it was like, okay, this is an issue. How do you suggest we fix this? But that organizing and understanding that we're stronger together than we are separate. And the more people that we have that are a part of our organization, the stronger we can be. In especially in making the changes that we know that we need for education in your respective districts, as well as in the state of South Carolina. But it does take joining in together. One person cannot do it by themselves.
Right. And that's where this word solidarity always comes up for me, because you may be in a building, your situation may be good, but if there's other folks in your building that are struggling for whatever reason, your job isn't just to say, well, I've got it good, my situation is good, my class sizes are fine, my classroom is fully equipped, I'm good. But if that isn't the case for everybody on your team, there's something kind of selfish about saying, well, I've got mine. And I don't really care about what other people have. And this goes beyond just your building. It goes to across your district, across the state, and really across the country. We need to be advocating for the educators who might be struggling in a county across the state who don't have the resources they need or aren't being treated well. We've got to be thinking in terms of, like you said, we're in this together, and together isn't just the couple of friends I have in my hallway, but they're educators across the state and country. That's why I feel like, joining the SCEA, when you join the SCEA, you're joining that local, state, and national, so that we can organize at all three levels, which is essential. I wanted to shift gears because we're getting closer to 8 o'clock, and I wanted to make sure I asked you this question. As you dreamt about becoming president and sort of envisioned becoming president of the SCEA, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you'd like to accomplish. But what are you most passionate about? What is it that you're really hoping to make what is the area you hope to make the biggest impact on?
Local growth, and local growth not just in membership numbers, but in the advocacy piece at the local level. All of our districts are not the same. But if we grow our locals so that local is strong, that local is meeting not only with their principal, but the superintendent on a regular basis, and helping to make good changes within their district, that'll trickle up to where there are good changes being made for public education throughout the state. But it starts at the local level to get our locals stronger, where we're not only just recruiting members, but we're also retaining and engaging our members and finding out what the needs are, because everybody's need isn't the same. So that's one of the things that I really want to do, is to be able to travel the state and get in everybody's local to help with that organizing piece and just building up our locals. I have a second one that tugs at my heart, and that's our support professionals. I asked some support professionals, how much they got paid and how many of them had to work second jobs. I don't understand how anybody can feel it's okay to pay someone so little that when they leave a school, they have to go work another full-time job.
Right.
To live. This isn't like what I would do. I work my little part-time job so I could go take a trip. They're working 2 full-time jobs just to live. And that's not right.
No.
It's not right. I don't understand, I don't understand that. When I think about the classroom assistants that I've worked with over the years, if the teacher was out, that classroom assistant had that class. A subnet wasn't always brought in. So if they're able to do the job of a teacher, why can't you pay them well?
Right.
Why do they have to leave, go to work another job? Yeah. And then if they come in and they're tired the next day, you wondering why. Pay them the living wage that they need, and they won't come in tired, because they'll just be working at one job, and they'll be able to go home, take care of their families, and be able to come in fresh the next day. They shouldn't have to work 2 and 3 jobs, which is taken away from their families, just so that way they can make ends meet. And it's not about, they want to do something extra. No, this is, they have to pay rent. They have to pay their mortgage, water bill, light bill.
Right.
Car payment.
You look at what they make hourly and you multiply that times, say, 40. And then you look at what a typical mortgage or rent payment is now. And then you wonder, there's no way on that meager salary to make ends meet with just a 40-hour week. And that, to me, the whole idea behind unions was it's supposed to have a balance between, your work and your life. We unions fought for a long time so that Americans can go in, put in their 8 hours, but then have 8 hours of their own time to spend with their families, to take care of themselves, to rest. And resting is a right that we as human beings should have. And what you're saying is exactly right, that so many people, so many of these education support professionals are working 40 hours a week, and they can't make ends meet, so they're working extra jobs, and that is so dehumanizing and inhumane. It's an inhumane situation. What
So
can we do
what
about
I
that?
want? I want the superintendents, and I know none of them are on tonight. They ain't on here. But the word may get to them. I would love for the superintendents to do just what you said. How much average rent, average mortgage, figure in light bill,
Right.
car payment, figure out how much that a month, and then look at how much you're paying the support professionals and see if the math is mathing.
Yeah.
And I know that wasn't presidential talk right there, but if the math's not mathing,
yeah,
what are you going to do to change it, to make it better?
Yeah, because I just, it's so
Because
much
we have
suffering.
some great support professionals, and we don't want to lose them
Mm.
to Buc-ee's, because Buc-ee's pays more.
That's right. That's right. Because what people don't understand is the important role that they play in the functioning of a school. And their role is of critical. Every person who's working in the building has a critical role to play. And yes, of course, a teacher in their 30th year, they have a PhD, of course they're going to make a little bit more. But the idea that somebody can put in a full-time week and week after week and then come home and they can't even pay just the mortgage and rent, let alone, like you said, the utilities, the car bill, the gas, the groceries, the medical bill. I got to take my kid to the doctor. It's such a struggle, and it's not getting better. It's getting worse for these folks.
And that's sad.
Yeah.
Because how is it 2025 and it's getting worse? Because everything is going up except their check.
In a world, especially in a world where you have folks like, and I don't want to get too much into an economic discussion here, but you have folks like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk who control hundreds of billions of dollars alone. And then you have folks like working as custodial staff or in the cafeteria who can't make ends meet, working 40 hours a week, can't pay just for a basic, their basic needs to be met. There's something really fundamentally wrong. People talk about redistribution of wealth, and what we've seen over the past 40 years, there has been to the top 1/10 of 1%. There's been that redistribution. We used to have a strong middle class, and now that's deteriorating because you can't even, like you said, you can't even work a 40-hour week at a factory or at a job as a support professional and make ends meet because of the cost of things has gone up so much, and with inflation and everything. It's this is really, I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad that is on your radar, and I really appreciate that. Before we sign off, is there anything else that you'd like to share that we haven't talked about tonight with folks who might be watching?
Well, I see there's a question there about involving parents in the community. We need to share with our parents, and not necessarily at a PTA meeting, but some things have to happen off-site, to where our locals could have like a parent and community involvement group to let them know exactly, what's taking place in the schools, what kind of supports need to be in place, like after school programs with helping our kids with their homework, support for parents, that supporting parents so parents can support their kids so that they can be successful in school. So having some of those off-site meetings with talking to parents about the things that's taking place within the school, and even helping them, because they're not aware of a
Mhm.
lot of things, and sometimes they kind of stay away because they don't know. But letting the educators do what we do best, which
Right.
is educate and
I
teach.
think so many of the problems that there have been around parents and community members, it's folks going onto social media or to certain pundits and getting their opinions about what's happening in schools from those folks instead of from the actual people who are working there. From instead of going into the schools and seeing what's going on and talking with their
Mhm.
the staff and the faculty at their schools. So many misconceptions. I mean, just the idea, for example, that there were litter boxes. I mean, that was an internet rumor, that
Yes,
people took seriously and thought
yes,
really there were litter boxes in schools.
yes,
And this is the kind of
yes.
misinformation and misconceptions that folks have, that if they would just go into the schools and visit and volunteer, and like you said, show up to open house, show up to your parent teacher meetings, that's what, yeah,
Or ask, because I had someone ask me, and I was like, yes, talk to an educator.
right,
Just like we ask our legislators, before you do legislation with education, talk to the educators first. So before, you're reading and following up things that are on Facebook or any social media platform, talk to somebody. And even if you have somebody who's upset about something, and think first, they're upset, so you're only hearing their side of it. Don't be so quick to jump in with opinions and stuff
right,
without knowing all of the facts. We have great things taking place in our public schools, and we need to be shouting it out and sharing
absolutely.
it. The world needs to know, because the world likes to put out all of the negative. We need to be the ones to share the great things that's taking place within our schools, because we have some great public schools. We have great educators that are in our schools, and it's time for us to stop being silent on the great things that's taking place within our
Here, here.
buildings.
Um, I know this weekend is a big weekend for football fans. College football gets back into gear, and I know we have a couple of tickets that we want to give away. Do you want to do it? Do you want to do a game day
Yes.
thing and make your prediction? Is South Carolina going to beat Virginia Tech, and will Clemson beat LSU? Do you want to make that prediction, or are you going to pass on that?
I I'm gonna go with Clemson over
Okay.
LSU, just because Clemson is South Carolina. And what was the other team?
South Carolina against Virginia Tech.
I'm
Okay.
going with
All
South
right.
Carolina. Yes. Although, as a side note, I roll Tide.
Okay. You're an Alabama fan. Okay.
I am an Alabama fan. My husband says it's because I'm married to him and he's from
Okay.
Alabama. But as I've told him, I liked Alabama before time. But yeah, we roll
Okay. All
Tide.
right. Well, you've had a good run. I'm hoping Carolina can take down Alabama this year. We almost did it last year. It was so close last year. So hopefully we can get it done this year. So Tom is about to give us our winner of the tickets for the South Carolina State game on September 6th.
Ah, Delonte.
It's Delonte Hupp. All right.
Yes, Delonte's our
Congratulations.
winner from
Yes. Awesome. A
Darlington.
great young educator. Great. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Congratulations, Delonte. Gene says Coastal's going to beat Virginia. We'll see about that.
I'm with you with
And Russell
Coastal,
says Roll
Gene.
Tide.
Yes, that's the
Okay,
husband.
that's right. Okay, that hence the last name. Got it. Thank you, Russell. Thanks so much for everybody tuning in. We had Gene, Russell, Delonte, Melanie, Chanel, so many people. Jennifer, lots of people tuned in tonight. Bertha, and Tom. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned in tonight, and thank you, Dena, for your leadership. And we're really excited about your presidency and what you can accomplish. And we wish you the best as you move further into that journey as the president of the SCEA.
Thank you so much for this time, Todd. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Whoops, that's not okay. Let me do this. All right. So that was Dena Crews, the president of the South Carolina Education Association, and really appreciate her time tonight and appreciate you for tuning in. And as she mentioned, we are stronger together. And if you would like to be together with us at the South Carolina Education Association, go to jointhescea.org. We're the only organization that is advocating on behalf of education support professionals here in South Carolina. So if you are an ESP, you can join as well. So we are not just for classroom teachers. Anybody who works in a public school building in South Carolina can join our organization at jointhescea.org. The ESP dues are intentionally less expensive because of the issues that we mentioned. We want to make sure that they get the benefits, but that it's affordable for them. So if you are a custodial staff, cafeteria staff, front office, if you're working in a building, go to jointhescea.org because we are stronger together and we can advocate for better wages, better working conditions, and creating the kind of schools that you deserve and that your students deserve. So a couple of things I want to mention coming up next week. We are going to be interviewing the cool coaches. So if you're not familiar with what this is a really great program started by Dr. Marcella Weinsnyder, who's my co-conspirator at Cool. And she got Stephanie and Angie to join this Cool Coaching Initiative. Those are three incredible educators, and they're going to be talking about what Cool Coaching is next Wednesday, September 3rd at 7 o'clock. And if you'd like to experience Cool Coaching, this is for our induction teachers. So if you're in the first 5 years of your career, you can get free online one-to-one support with one of these three incredible educators every Tuesday and Thursday night from 6 to 8 o'clock. You just go to cool.us/coaching. If you go to cool.us, you can see at the top, you'll find your way there. But if you want the shortcut, it's cool.us/coaching. You'll get put into a breakout room. You'll get that one-on-one support. You can ask them questions. It's confidential. It's unbiased. It's unfiltered. Sometimes when you're in a school and you have an issue, you don't know who to go to because you'd kind of like to keep it from spreading around the school that you have this question or this issue, and you're not sure who to trust. Or maybe you feel like you're not going to get unbiased feedback. This is your way to get that unbiased feedback from somebody who's really competent and somebody that you can trust. So I want to encourage you to take advantage of this. You do not have to be a member of the SCEA to be a part of Cool Coaching, but when you see that benefit, and that's just one of the benefits of that the SCEA provides. When you see that and understand the value in that, I think you'll want to be in relationship with our association, and as Dena mentioned, be together, because collectively together, if you've seen the movie Ants, you know how it works. And when we do things individually, it's not as strong. But when we come together and we organize at our building level, at our district level, at the state and the national level, we have much more. We can build power that way. And when we build that power, then we can make things happen, make things change for the good. So again, thanks so much to Dena for her time tonight. We wish her well in her presidency, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week when we talk about Cool Coaching this Wednesday night, September 3rd at 7 o'clock. Until then.